Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time coming. I'm very, very excited to introduce to you a very good friend of mine from all the way over in the USA. Here we have Culture of Currency. How are you going?
Oh, we're alive. It's hard to complain when you're breathing and blinking. So if I start every day with that, I'll be in good shape.
I love to hear it. You're doing very well. And I'd like to also just preface all of this with the major focus of this interview. You may know Culture of Currency from the silver stacking community, but I wanted this video to be more of a focus on the journey of collecting and what that can do for someone as a hobby, which builds into a passion. So I'd like to preface with that and begin with asking you, what's your latest acquisition over there?
Yeah, so we just wrapped up last year. Being that I moved into a new house, I only ordered a little bit under my goal. I have a set goal, $100 a month, to prove to anyone that views my channel that you can do this. Sometimes that's really, really hard because there's a lot of things on the market that I want to pull the trigger on, but it also brings in a little bit more intentionality to try to incorporate new countries or new themes within my collection. So last year, we did a little bit over $800. I ordered four times $200 each, which equals about $100 a month for those 8 months. And I missed a couple of months just because I was forgetting to order whenever I was moving in. So that did set me back. But yeah, we ordered last month. Just looking off the top of my head, here's one, the Elephant of Gibraltar, which we did a video on. I've done a video on most of those that I've got recently, so I need to order again. I don't remember if this was in that last order. This is the Silver Valiant, which many of you consider the sovereign, which I love. It's absolutely one of my favorites. This British Virgin Island Santa Maria, which is a nautical cameo coin. I picked up this one here, a tiger from Laos. Very interesting.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I saw that one and love tigers and didn't have anything from Laos. And so that was a must have. This one here, I just did a video on. This is the lunar rabbit of Bhutan. Very, very interesting research into that one. If you haven't seen it yet, it is amazing. That little country, which is south of China and right north of India and kind of close to Bangladesh. So very interesting. I absolutely love it. I have never got into wanting to collect a full lunar series, but as of right now, once the cycle repeats, I think if that's the one I'm going to go for, that Bhutan rabbit has just blown me away when I've looked into the history and culture of that coin. So for me, this one too.
Yeah,
This is Vivat Humanitas. I've not done a video on it yet because it's a little bit daunting because of the rabbit hole I know I'm going to go down, that I'm going to absolutely fall in love with even more because it's one of those Pressburg mints. They have amazing quality. And when you have coins that are based on ideas and not, tangible things, I always tend to like those more because they give you an emotional response versus just a visual one.
absolutely. And I'm also curious and this is an incredibly broad question. What impact has collecting had on your life?
Yeah, it's not what I originally assumed. So I started off with my grandmother a long time ago, collecting stamps and coins across a dining room table, figuring out how to lift the stamps and figuring out how to assess the coins. And those were all just general, standard issue government coins. And so whenever I thought about getting into a hobby, I was like, well, all hobbies basically just suck money from you. And then thought about this one. It is a great idea because you're having something that will always hold value. You have something that brings in cultures from around the world, history lessons, stories, nature, so many dramatic elements. And you have variations in art forms. That Bhutan rabbit, for example, is highlighting what we would call paper cutting, which is a Asian art form that they use in lunar cycles. And so that's something that I absolutely love. I have the Fiji Great Wave, which is talking about the Edo period in Japan. So we get to actually hold art forms in our hand from multiple areas of the world and hopefully learn the stories that go along with those so that I'm very, very versed in the culture and the important things that go on in our world, which is why it's so upsetting to me when a coin does it wrong. when they choose the wrong species or the wrong tree or the wrong whatever on a coin, because if it were me in that nation and this is my chance to show off to the world what we have and you get it wrong, I'm going to have an issue with that. So, but it does happen. And I have a couple of those coins that highlight things you could have done better.
What? All right. What's the, in your humble opinion, what's the biggest botch on a coin in your collection?
So there's subtle things. For example, this one here, this is subtle. You wouldn't catch it. This is a Somali elephant, right? It's minted Bavarian mint, so it's in Europe. So you wouldn't think much of it, with the exception of when I was reading the description of the coin, it notes an acacia tree. If we look at the leaves of this particular coin, that is not an acacia tree. That is a hardwood tree that you find in Europe, which makes sense when it's being minted in Europe and probably designed in Europe. That's the trees that are around there. So that's just a little thing. Acacia leaves are very, very small leaves that are laterally kind of placed across a branch on either side. So that's just a little thing. This one here is not a little thing. This is the country of Anguilla. This is a Caribbean nation, and this is a lobster that's found in the North Atlantic. This doesn't exist in the Caribbean, and this is what you have put on your coin. You can tell by the way the orientation of the antenna are and the claws. So something like this absolutely drives me bonkers because you have so many amazing things in Anguilla, and this is what you chose. We see it again in Montserrat, their angelfish, which is a beautiful coin, absolutely stunning. The issue being, this particular species is the blue girdled angelfish, which lives in the Pacific, not the Caribbean. They have angelfish in the Caribbean, and you chose this one. Why? Why would you do that? So those are little things that kind of drive me up the wall. I know that I'm probably the only one that cares about them, but, or maybe on the island, I don't know. But those are little things that I think you missed the mark on, and you absolutely. Here's another one. Oh my gosh. So this is the three-part Austrian series that highlights the mint, 825 years, two of which are amazing, the Wiener Neustadt and the Leopold. Great coins. You chose Robin Hood. We all know that legend is not Austrian, and I get the idea that, yes, King Richard was held captive in a castle in Austria during the Third Crusade. That makes sense. The legend of Robin Hood is talking about stealing from the rich, which led to the taxes, which hypothetically you could draw a line to say that's what led to the incorporation of the ransom that paid for the release of King Richard. And so therefore Robin Hood is Austrian lore. But come on, you're just trying to sell coins at that point. And it's funny, look up the value of those three coins. The Wiener Neustadt and the Leopold are still higher than that coin, even though they're in the same series.
So that's interesting because in many examples, particularly in Australian collecting, anytime there is an error or a mistake or something to that effect, the collector market loves it. It becomes incredibly sought after and highly collectible in that sense. So, in your experience, and this is predominantly speaking to the 1 ounce silver collectors market, that's not something that for you takes on any additional significance. It's purely just something that bothers you a great deal.
It does, because you've missed an opportunity. I see each of these coins as a little postcard, right? Something that is supposed to highlight your nation, give you pride, all of those things. And you've squandered it because you were just careless. You didn't check with people. You didn't have a focus group. You didn't do anything other than, hey, does this look good? Will it sell? That's the kind of thing that I get. And if anybody thinks that this lobster is going to be more valuable because it's the wrong species, let me know, because I'd love to sell it to you.
All right. Well, in that sense, we're going back the other way then. And I obviously have watched all of your videos, but for those that haven't, go check them out. But on the other end of the spectrum, what would be one of your preferred coins or one of your favorite coins to collect?
Oh gosh. Anything that's coming out of the Pressburg Mint right now is phenomenal. I mean, their equilibrium coin, anything like that, I'm all about. Anything coming out of Comsco, just absolutely top notch. The designs are always really, really good, which we see with a lot of Asian designs. They're in balance. They do everything intentionally. But for the example, this Chiwu, just the way the clouds and everything catches the light, it's all on purpose. Those always blow me away. I love history, anything like that, anything that brings in great art forms like this great wave from Fiji, or what's really the Fuji mountain of Tokyo, but it's the nation of Fiji that hosts it in their samurai series. But yeah, those are things that I really like. I really enjoy nature as well. For some reason, I have addiction to seabirds, and it becomes unhealthy when a pelican hits the market. So that's really hard on me sometimes. But yeah, I like that. I like things like this. It's simple. It's from Niue, and I know that they mass produce them, not worth a whole lot. But the fact that it's giving homage to an ancient coin is something that I absolutely love.
Absolutely. And in terms of putting together a collection, as we're seeing now, you've got quite the spread. How have you found that process of budgeting and putting together a collection? The way that you've done it is a very structured approach, whereas a lot of people that I have conversations with, one of the things they struggle with is budgeting. And when something new is released, if it's not part of their budget, how how do you refrain from making purchases beyond what you've set out to go for?
Yeah, it's called a wife. That's the easiest answer. But it was also an intentional thing. This is something I want to do for the rest of my life, and I want it to be enjoyable and manageable, and I want it to have purpose. I don't want to just sit there and buy coins because they're available. I could, but then it would lose its meaning to me. I want to value all of this, and sometimes that means that I only buy a couple of coins in a sitting because silver just happens to jump whenever I'm ready to buy. And it leads you to buying a couple of coins and then maybe a 1/10 ounce or something like that, or a mercury dime where on another month you could have bought an additional coin because spot was close to low 20s versus mid 30s. So I've seen that a lot where I'll get one or two less coins in a month and it kind of bums me out, but it also makes it way more intentional whenever I see something to say, when I order, this is going to be on my list.
I have to take my hat off to that. I have a great deal of respect and admiration for that level of self-control. I think a lot of people aspire to to one day be able to say that they have that level of control and responsibility with their collecting, because I'm not sure what it's like over in the US, but particularly in Australia, we have a lot of new modern releases, particularly in the base metal field. We have a lot of collectible $2 coins and things like that. And that's a market that is just exploding at the moment and introducing a lot of the younger generation to the hobby of collecting. Do you have anything like that over in the US?
Not as positive. The U.S. Mint is always been lackadaisical when it comes to what other mints do as far as issuing coins. We did see a reissuing of the Morgan and the Peace Dollar, which is great, but then they jacked up the price and made it a limited run, and which is it's neither here nor there. Our mints just aren't what other mints do, and the other part is that any news channel that you watch, any radio programs that you watch will be littered with how the economy is in an Armageddon and how the only way to save yourself is to buy silver and gold. And so I would say that the majority of our market are fear-based buyers. I can't tell you how many times I've contacted a coin shop or whatever, and it's like, yeah, all we do is buy and sell to people who are desperate. There is no, in my mind, collecting market for US coins other than people who are much like in your vein, the numismatic type that are looking for a very specific 1930, penny or whatever it happens to be. They have their boxes to check off. They're not often, in my view, just looking to see what's out there and saying, you know what, I like that coin. I mean, I've been on Reddit, I've been in all these areas and just seen people scoff at what I'm doing because it's like, you're seriously playing premiums for silver. It's not going to matter when the market crashes or whatever. And I'm like, I don't care. And this is not what I'm doing it for. I love that it has that value. If that does come to fruition, then I will have a little bit of the things that you think will save you. I'm not sure if I can bring a coin to a gas station and trade it for a can of gas. Maybe that will happen one day, but we're not there. And so to me, it's just a valuable hobby. that enriches my life and will enrich my kids and my grandkids one day when they, tap me on the leg and say, I want to see the coins again. Tell me about the coins. That to me is going to be more valuable than any weight of an ounce whenever I'm 90 years old swinging on a porch.
Oh, I music to my ears. You know that we're very aligned in that, and I love that idea and thought of being able to actively share in the hobby of collecting with future generations and be able to sit down and tell the story and give the cultural significance behind a particular coin or a design, or maybe even point out a mistake on a coin, explain
Yeah,
that that the mint botched this release and here's why. I think that idea of sharing knowledge is so powerful and often overlooked when it comes to coin collecting. Sometimes it can only be viewed from that intrinsic value component, and I think you miss out on such a broad and enriching part of the hobby, which is enjoying the coins from all over the world, learning a little bit more about places that you may have never visited and you may never visit, but you can still have that piece of it and have a connection to it.
absolutely. It's something that I have over time realized if I can't go to these places, I want to fill my house with the things from these places. And Rwanda is a great example in researching them and understanding that different nations have certain textile shapes, fabrics, designs that are unique to tribes, and seeing what a Rwandan basket looks like. And wanting that in my house, right? Wanting things from Egypt or wherever that I can look at a shelf and say, I know exactly what this is, the significance of it, and can tell that story. It's not just something I went and bought at the home decor store that means nothing. No, I want everything in my house to have value and intention.
I'd like to cap off with one potentially difficult question for you. If you
Sure.
were, and I've suggested to you in the past that you should, at some point in your career, I would be disappointed if you had no involvement in an advisory capacity to a mint. But let's suggest for a moment that you find yourself in the position of mint master. You become the US mint master, and
Yeah.
they say culture of currency. We're looking for a design to encourage future generations to take a serious look at coin collecting as a rewarding hobby. You can come up with
Yeah.
either one design or a series. What do
Yes.
you think that would be?
So, in doing multiple lunar videos, I sat there and said, this is an amazing thing that many generations of a culture have been able to look to, and welcome every single year. Why doesn't America have a lunar series? And if they did, what would they be? And so to me, that is exactly it. I went through every animal I could think of on our continent and said, if we had 12 animals, what would those be? What would our journey be and why? And so it's crazy you asked that. That is exactly what I've thought about for a long time. And there's some interesting animals that are on my list like the manatee that I put in there because the idea of the overlooked person, the war vet that came back to the country and was forgotten, the special needs kid that's 20 years old and forgotten by the family, the grandmother who's left to rot in a nursing home, right? And so I have these correlations with the American experience that I have thought about doing a lunar series on. So if I were ever in a mint, it could be in Austria, it could be in Serbia. I want to have a lunar series for my country that says, these are the things that we aspire to. These are the things that if you look out in a field and you see one of these, to remind you of who you can be at your best. So that when you see somebody struggling on a bus, when you see somebody, in under a bridge or whatever, you're reminded of the potential good and not the bad that might have led them to those situations. Because to me, every single time I look at a coin and all I'd see is a coin, it's missed the mark. It should inspire you in some way to try to be a better person. And sometimes that's through, wildlife and understanding, the amazing beauty that we live in. Sometimes it's in the stories of history or great fantasy or, ideas like the Pressburg mint coins. But that to me is everything that we should do is create something that when you look at it, it makes you want to be better. And if you're not doing that, then what are you doing? Trying to make money? Because that's the unfortunate side, is that if you're following that path will only lead you to money. And money is great and all, but it doesn't run the country when things go sideways. You need integrity, you need character, you need people to step up. And if they're not reminded of that on a daily basis, then they have a less likelihood of being that when it comes to shove.
I'm properly blown away by that response. That is, maybe that's a project. Maybe that's in some capacity, we'll do a joint venture one day and bring that project
Yeah.
to
I mean,
fruition. That would be incredible.
can you imagine in Australia having the 12 animals that comprise everything that an Australian should be, right? And it's not about if you're a native or if you are somebody who came in on a boat, it's about the ideals. And that's what I'll go over in my video, is that yes, America is great, but America is made of people that came here from somewhere and took the best of those things and brought them here, and we've just kept them running. Everybody has that in their country. You just have to be willing to find what that is and put it on a coin.
I love it. And I think that something like that certainly would hopefully open people's eyes into the potential of coins, the fact that you can instill a message of that magnitude on a planchet of that size, I think is truly remarkable. And I
Yeah.
often take a look at various coins in my own collection and just have a bit of quiet contemplation about, the significance of this coin, and even for some of the older coins, the journey that they've been on that have ultimately led them into my hand. And it's
Yeah.
it's incredible. I feel like you can get more out of a coin collection than you can out of, occasionally reading some of the old history books, because that's a tangible thing, which often
Yeah.
leads you to the books anyway. But what a great hobby, and I applaud you for sharing that the hobby the way you do, and encouraging people to give a little bit more consideration to their collections and do things like starting up a collection with intention, taking that
Yeah.
time to what you're also doing, whether you've contemplated or not, I'm sure you have, is advocating for financial responsibility. Take a look at your position, make a budget, operate within that budget. And it's such a rewarding hobby that also gives you those tools to hopefully have a better life as well.
I agree. I mean, it's anything that can make your life better is a great. And if you have the potential to make anything like this make your life better, then why not? I mean, it's that idea that no matter what you do, you should do it in a light that improves the world rather than just maintains it. And that's a lot of people have issues with the queen on a coin, and to me, that's really the only issue I have. I know she takes up a lot of real estate, and we're going to have a changing of the guard, and he will take up a lot of real estate. And to me, the issue is you're missing an opportunity to highlight things outside of nations that aren't the UK, right? Or Australia. You have small islands. When I look at this, for example, this is our liberty, right? This is nobody's face that we know of. This is an idea. This is something that we can look to and hopefully remember uh, the intangible that helped build our land. And that's what's on a lot of our coins. Obviously, we have presidents and things like that of people who are notable, but this is what it should be. When you have this, this is a respectable way to highlight that yes, we have certain rules when it comes to our coinage, but the rules of our land are very important too. The things that are here are very important. This is the Kronos. We have the queen. She's still there, but she's just a piece in the whole idea. I get that she has to be there, and this is a respectable way to do it. When you have coins that look like that, is a lot of real estate. And to me, yes, it's Canada. We know that, this is a very important thing, and it should be. But you live in a country with so much awesome culture that just a little thing like you did here, where you put the Inukshuk, obviously it was about the Olympics, but that is a Native American symbol. that shows you something so much more when you do a little thing like that. So there are certain ways that you can do, at least on occasion, to really, really highlight the land. When we had this series, which I know you're familiar with, this is the older Lunar Series. One, I'm not a big fan of the design, as we all know, but there's so much potential here, which is why I believe that when it comes to beauty, the Royal Australian Mint is doing miles and away better than anyone else when it comes to the coin. Uh, and that's
Yeah.
because the way that you've incorporated every single animal, you still have the queen, but she's in balance with the theme. She's in balance with the thing that this coin was made for, right? And the idea that you even bring the crescent moon, just a hint in these coins, as we talk about that area right there. I think that's phenomenal. We have the river, which is what you had to cross to get to the Jade Palace. I mean, it just brings everything in. So if it were for the beauty, I would be going for that Lunar Series. If it were for cultural significance, this Bhutan series is my go-to.
Fantastic stuff. I really appreciate you taking the time to walk me through some of your collection and share your thoughts on what I always say is the greatest hobby of all. It's introduce me to my new friend, or not you're not a new friend anymore. We've been friends for years now, but
Yeah.
I really do appreciate you taking the time to do this video with me and continue to share your love of collecting and go into the levels of detail that you do in your videos. If there's anyone watching that would like to learn a lot more about some of the coins in their collection, Culture of Currency is a fantastic channel with a trove of information that getting into detail that you didn't think possible. And I think that is a tremendous service that you offer for the community. And I thank you for that. And just wanted to know if you had any last words of wisdom.
Yeah, I would say is simple. Two words: awareness and intention. Be aware of everything that's going on around you, the little things. Pay attention to deviations and behaviors of those people around you. Be there for those people, because your communities matter. I think that we like to, hide in our rooms sometimes, especially in crazy times like this, but just be in your community, do good things, and spread good things throughout the world. I think that's more important than any coin I'll ever get is your actions. So yes, I have cool coins. That's all well and good, but if you get anything from this, it's just be a good person, do good things, and that will make me happier than any coin you can ever show me. So that's what I got.
Wonderful note to end on. Thank you very much for your time. And for those interested, there's a link in the description to Culture of Currency's channel. And we'll have to do this again at some stage. I get the impression that we could go on for hours and hours, and hopefully we can get some sort of series going at some point in time, because I have many more
Yep.
questions and I think, yeah, we could go for a while.
Well, we haven't even got into my big old stamp book.
Yeah, look out. More to come. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.